Welcome to the Journal of Biophilic Design podcast. We're joined today by Niklas Madsen. He's founder of Superlab, and this is quite something different for our podcast and our video cast. I'm really excited, so thanks very much for joining us, Niklas.
Thank you.
Superlab is a company that was founded in 2014, as an experimental design laboratory with the main goal to study the future workplace and the future design of tomorrow. And you've written a book as well, as you you started the journey of writing this book, Playful Office and the future, it's actually Playful Office, the future office philosophy that will turn employees into employees.
Exactly.
I'm really intrigued. Niklas, thanks for joining us. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe. Obviously, you're a designer and you partnered with a psychology major, and
Sure.
also about what Superlab does.
Yeah, well, my background, I'm an industrial designer, and I studied in the United States, in Florida. And I moved back in 2002. And I started very quickly afterwards working for different design companies. And in 2004, I decided to run my own business. So I had that for 10 years and realized I was bored of just doing, my own work basically. And I needed colleagues. And also I got very interested in what research could do when you were doing a project when it came to interior design or product development. So the analysis behind and studies before a project, I got very, very keen into. So I started working with a psychologist major and looking into what happens when you add play to a meeting. Because in Scandinavia, in Sweden, we have a lot of meetings about meetings where we don't get anywhere. You probably have them in the UK too.
Yeah.
That was like the fundamental idea of what happens when we add play to a meeting. Is it bad or is it good? And that was basically the whole philosophy around it. And we called that project Superlab.
Okay.
And after a couple of months, we got questions from the government, from big corporations that they wanted to hire Superlab. And that was the business idea, of course. So we changed the name of my company to Superlab, and that was in 2014. And that's basically the whole idea of Superlab, is that looking to research and see what research basically tells us, and then combine that into reality in products, interior design, or especially in the future of work.
Okay. And so why is it important for people to play? What is it?
Yeah, when it comes to the play thing, of course, when you start researching this, you discover a lot of elements. And the psychologist, he had the mental aspect of things, and I came from the physical aspect of things. And when you combined these two, we realized that a lot of things, it was like every time we turned a stone, something new popped up. But the book, I actually have a copy here that you can see, but the book is basically a combination of 80 different research papers telling us different facts about play and us humans, and also what happens when you add it to your business. And the fundamental thing, what happens is that you can totally tell that you will gain a lot more collaborations when people start playing with each other. When it's not professional, you need to deliver. When you just play, people calm down, they have more fun, they interact, they start collaborate. You gain so much by just adding play to your normal business life, that in the end, it will be so much more beneficial for your company, business-wise and everything, basically.
Mm-hmm. And so what sort of form does this play take? I mean, you've worked with Citrix and IKEA, you've got some really great big names under your belt who you've worked with. Maybe you could give us an example of, what does it look like? How do you implement it? How do you encourage people to do that, to actually, have that dynamic in an office?
Yeah, see, I mean, one of the things that we did a couple of years ago, we took a co-working space, and that's a typical example of how you can add play and gain a lot out of it. And they focused a lot on startup community, and basically for young people starting new business ideas and developing them. For them to be able to basically interact, and they need a big network to start their business. The whole environment of the co-working space needed a more simpler, a more acceptable physical environment, because you needed to have the feeling of things are accepted here to actually try out and fail, and then gain new knowledge and take some new steps.
Yeah.
And when you create an environment that's relaxed in that sense, that also opens up, for other, startup companies interacting with each other, and new business ideas will pop up, or they will join each other or something. So we created this whole co-working space out of a very playful environment. We use colors as symbolic things to understand where the bathrooms are. And that's like also to keen on to psychological safety of, if you're coming to this space the first time, you can just tell people, oh, green areas, that's where the bathroom, the restrooms are. So it's one of those things where you can psychologically create safetiness in an environment that you've never been in. So there's a lot of levels of using play, basically with furnitures, with colors, and putting things together to create meeting rooms, spontaneous meetings. So I think there's a lot of levels where you can use play and actually interact and get people to change their behaviors, basically.
Yeah. I mean, the design that you do, I mean, I've seen on your website. I encourage our watchers and listeners to check out your website, superlab.se.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got in the video that we're recording right now, you have chairs behind you in kind of pigeonholes, which I find really, I mean, you've done that in a space I saw, and you've wrapped a chandelier in sort of material, and you've done some really, really funky fit outs or funky installations. I would actually, it's very art based. Actually, it feels very design led, very art based.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I really, really love it. In order to encourage play, I mean, do you kind of put physical things in a space? I mean, or do you? I mean, how do you encourage that dynamic? How do you do that? Do you have to sort of train people, or what?
Yeah, basically, I mean, it's one of those things. One of the big questions you constantly get from companies that they read about adding playful, and they want it to be more innovative. And the big question we always get is, oh, can you guys come and help us and create one creative room? Okay. And that is probably the biggest mistake you can ever do, is to have one creative room, because when can you ever box in creativity? It's like one of those when you're doing interior for your kids' room, and then here you're going to have all the toys, but it never ends up they're in the room playing with their toys. They're always going to be in the living room or under the kitchen where you are. Yeah. So it's like it's one of those fundamental things. If you try to box in play, it's never going to happen. It's not going to be playful. It's a big no-no. Play needs to be something that's fundamental in the organization, in everywhere. It needs to be accepted that if I start playing, it's acceptable to play around. Mm-hmm. But you need to have management that actually dares to be playful. Mm-hmm. Because if they play the act, people are going to follow, of course. Yeah. So it's a big mental thing more than it is a physical thing. Uh-huh. But of course you can have boosters that can signalize that here it's okay to play. Mm-hmm. But of course there's a big other side of this also, is that if you have Google, that when you see picture from their offices, it's always super playful. You have a big slide, you have pinball machines and everything. The big question is that you can also play wash your company to act if you are playful. So there's a big side of things where You have a branding of being playful, but if you aren't acting it out, it's not going to be good at all. So it is a really big mental thing where you can use the physical as boosters, I think.
Okay. And so what do you, so in order to, I mean, what kind of implementation do you do? I mean, obviously you put pieces of furniture in. I mean, do you put blocks in? Do people actually physically pick things up? Do you have whiteboards? I mean, what kind of things do you put in?
Well, a lot of things, and a lot of times, basically what we do is we do a very deep analysis of the company staff before we do anything. That is the fundamental thing of doing a very thoroughly survey of how they work, what tools do they need, what type of meetings do they carry out, and then basically listen to the employees, and then talk to the management to understand how do they want to perceive their work culture to be an interesting employer, basically. And from there on, that's where we basically build up in their level of playfulness what they can carry out. Because if you put Legos all over a lawyer firm, basically in their office, it's not going to be like that professional approved from their clients. Mm-hmm. But if you put a pool table in a very nice setting with nice environment, it's going to be in a playful level in their sense, where they can still be perceived as professional. Nobody's not going to look weird at them. So it's all about finding the level of playfulness and then apply those in their sense, basically. So we don't have one thing fits all for everyone, that, oh, if you have a bag of Lego in your conference room, it works out. That's, if you have that, you're not playful. That's the biggest sign of not being playful at all. So I think it's all about understanding the communal sense of your employees' level of playfulness. Because there's nothing worse than forced play, you know, that, oh, everybody's going on a kickoff and we're going to do this because the top manager said so. It's going to be a negative effect. So I think it's all about finding the level of that group of people and the work culture to find the level of where playfulness should be.
Yeah, I should imagine as well, if it's done right and it's in a, like you're saying, like in, for instance, in a lawyer's place or whatever, and you're putting a billiard, a pool table in, I can imagine as well, if it's in an environment where the clients are coming in, you could almost like break the ice with that client, so actually it would be quite cool,
Yeah, what signals do you want to send with the physical environment? And what signals do you want to send with the mental environment or the work culture that you have? I mean, the sense of, it's just simple thing. If you hear a group of people sitting laughing on the tube, you're gonna be interested and want to hear what they're laughing about because you want that.
Yeah.
So it's the same effect that you can create with your employees or employees by having them being, having a good time at work, being energetic. They're going to talk about the work in their personal life, and people are going to say, wow, I want to work at that company because it sounds like they have a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of rings on the water, basically, you can get out of just by adding play in the right way.
Yeah, and it's not a million miles from really to doing a round of golf, to be fair, if you know what I mean, that mindset. Exactly. If people go out, they'll talk to their clients on a golf course or whatever, they might have a round of bridge, they kind of, it's like, it's not a million miles away from that mindset. No. I was just going to ask you, obviously this is a Journal of Biophilic Design, and I know that you also implement different sort of biophilic design aspects. I mean, one of the things I saw on your site that you've done is a jungle wall. I thought that was like cool. Yeah. That was really, really cool. I mean, can you tell us a little bit about what you've implemented and how it's inspired play?
Yeah, so I mean, when we wrote the book Playful Office during 2016, and it got launched in 1st of January 2017, the process of writing that book started like a snowball effect that hasn't stopped yet. And that is basically us, everyone in the company, reading a bunch of research studies, finding out about research papers that are interesting, not only in our field, in all kinds of different levels. And so basically what we came up with in our journey, and we saw it in a bunch of our interior design projects, is that a lot of times the health level of the fundamental building is not in a healthy level for us humans. And we know from statistics today that we spend more than 90% of our life basically inside, and air quality is bad. A lot of times lighting is bad. And then you have the sound, basically sound structure in an architectural world is very poor. So we started looking into what about health and human beings at work? And that became a very, very deeply researched study from us, like still looking into it. And of course, we came across the Biophilic design community a couple of years ago. And the product that you were talking about, the jungle wall, is from a research study that we read that was done in the United States, I think, where they looked at people recovering from hospitals, and some being placed next to a window where they have like nature outside, and some being placed to a window where they have an industrial area outside. Mm-hmm. And what they found out basically was that the recovery time of people being close to nature just by seeing nature could speed up the recovery process, basically. So out of that research paper, we said, well, we have a lot of clients where we try to add on like real plant walls inside of their office space, but a lot of times it got taken away because it's too expensive or something, or they got to have water or sewage or something, and it's not possible.
Yeah.
But what if we create a product that looks like nature, but it has like a sound absorbent effect also? So we went to a local company here, a manufacturer, and said, we have this idea. And they, in the beginning, they looked weird at us, of course, because we didn't come with a final product. We came with this philosophy and a concept. And it came out a year ago, and after 6 months, we won the Red Dot Award, like the Oscars for product design for that product. And yes, so that is more like a process how a lot of our projects and ideas comes to life, basically, from a research that we read, and then we develop a concept, and then we bring it to manufacturers.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, you're doing something at the moment, actually, aren't you? This thing called SuperSync. It's an AI tool. It's a kind of piece of research that you're doing. I mean, can you explain a little bit about that?
Exactly. Yeah. So basically, SuperSync is one project where we basically have an AI tool collecting our basically what it comes from is us managing time and collecting our, what hours did we do what projects around. Mm-hmm. And we're not administrative people. We are very creative. So we always forget about it. So we created this computer platform, basically an AI tool that goes in and downloads. We connect our calendars with this AI, and it collects all our calendar, the time spent on a certain project, and then it collects it in a website showing us in graphs and pie charts of what we've been working on. Mm-hmm. But what I think about what you're referring to is our AI project with interior design and architecture.
Yeah.
And that is a research study doing a collaboration with Lund University and an AI professor there named Axel Nordin. And what we have done is basically we take surveys, employer surveys data of human behaviors, how people interact and how they work in an office space. Yeah. And he has developed an AI tool where you can basically data crunch this data. And what we added onto it is that we create new types of floor plans out of employees' soft values and what they think of their office, basically. So instead of today, you have an architect designing an office space with a management from a company, and then you just apply your staff on top of that. we wanted to turn around on the philosophy of, can we create floor plans with AI that is from humans' soft values, and then we create the physical world afterwards? And can we get more better interaction between people? Can we get like a healthier work environment out of it? And we have come up with some very, very interesting results. And we've been working on this for 1.5, soon 2 years now.
Really?
And in the beginning of this year, we received 2.2 Swedish million kronor from Ingvar Kamprad Family Fund, the IKEA founders family fund, to proceed with this project. So it has like a health aspect of it, and it has like a very futuristic AI aspect of it.
That sounds really interesting. It'd be interesting to see what the results are going to be and how you're going to, you know, what that final thing's going to be, that implementation at the end of it, which is what I love what your company's doing. You have this like idea that you look at the research and then you come out with a solution. I think it's really exciting. Yeah,
and I think that if you just dare to look at research, what research actually tells us, and try to implement it to our real world and try to get it to work what actually works, you can find some very, very interesting innovation ideas out of just by playing with these two factors. And that has become somewhat of our business model and how we work. Yeah.
It's really good. It's really different. It's innovative, and it's setting you apart from everybody else, which is so cool. I mean, obviously, right now, it'd be really interesting to get your take on this. Obviously, the whole world has been, affected by COVID. There's been loads of people in lockdown. There's people, not sure what they're going to do, if they're even going to have a job in the morning. I mean, what's the future of the workplace? What's it going to look like? I mean, if an employer was trying to reassure their staff to come back to work, or, I mean, in your kind of experience with all the research, with all those different sort of mindsets and hats on, I mean, sorry, that's my fridge making a noise. We've called the fridge Kevin, so it just likes to interrupt every now and again.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
But if an employee was going to do three things, just three things, they might have to have a normal office, just like, your bog standard office, which we've seen millions of. I mean, what three things would they do to like reassure their staff, maybe to encourage a positive mindset, positive psychology for everybody using the space?
Well, I mean, since beginning of this year, when COVID-19 hit us all, if we did a lot of research before, oh man, this summer has been hectic, I can say. I mean, we've been following up and trying to analyze everything what's been going on, and the fundamental thing that we can see what's going on right now is that when we sent all our employees home, we sent our work culture out of the window in the same time. Because a lot of organizations are built out of pyramid structure. Everybody has their place, their seat, their workstation, and when they're there, we know that they're working, hopefully. And when you throw that out of the window, you also realize that you need to build up a whole new way of working again. Because a lot of companies, they want to force their staff back. And some companies, they realize that, oh my God, we're effective, even more productive as is when people are not here. Do we need our office space? All these questions are hanging, floating around right now. But what we can see is that our office spaces are definitely needed because we are Homo sapiens. We need other people to get ideas, to innovate, to find new business. Innovation doesn't happen over a planned Zoom meeting. It happens spontaneously when you're taking a coffee and when you go out to lunch and you sit and talk about something totally different.
Yeah.
So we need these areas to interact with each other. You need these, the fundamental of just leadership. You need leadership around you to be able to proceed with work. So what I think is something the best you can ever do right now is to pull the handbrake, stop, and reevaluate everything. Just look at everything and don't be drastic of, canceling your lease of your office space and, sell all your stuff and think of everybody's going to work from home. No, they're not. It's not suited for everyone. And in the UK, where you have a lot of small apartments where people live in, where you're going to work, if you have the space to set up a workstation, fine. But a lot of people don't have that, and they have a spouse or something that's also working from home. So there's so many aspects of this that you really need to reevaluate to build up you take away your old organization and work culture and build it up again from scratch, and try to figure out, is it a 2-3 model where you have 2 days a week you're working from home or from distant wherever, and 3 days you try to organize people to have meetings at the office. Do a new floor plan that suits to the new regulations, but listen, adapt, and implement in new ways. And this is the best opportunity to actually to look up and look in the horizon, try to figure out something new. Definitely.
That's great. Just to bring it back to play a little bit. Sure. I mean, I suppose one thing is, do people do sort of people kind of like sort of scratch their head and say, what you want me to do? What in the office? Like sort of CEOs. I mean, do they embrace it once they've understood it, or is it? Are you met with a lot of questions?
Of course, yeah. I mean, we work with a lot of big corporations and big companies, and they are always scared of not being perceived as professionals.
Yeah.
Especially with the corona, and what's happening right now is that is something that we are trying to reinforce to our clients, is try to add on play. And if you're gonna like somewhat of trying to attempt your employees to come back to the office, add value to the office space. Try to make things playful, make it more comfortable, make it more interesting to actually be there instead of just a factory type of thing. So, and that's where the question comes in. But how do we do this and still being, professional? We don't want people to run around and shoot each other with Nerf guns all day. No, it's like one of those things. Add Nerf guns and put on, Nerf darts all the way around, and people are gonna have short breaks of madness for 10-15 minutes as a recovery thing also, like just to mentally shut down and do something totally different and just laugh, to just have some fun, and that's gonna add a lot to the company in the long run. So I think right now is the time to add play to your company and your business, and just dare to have a little fun with your employees, just to relax a little bit, because a lot of people have being tense, stressed out, all the levels are, on top 100 right now.
Yeah.
So just to find levels and find good stuff that you just can laugh with each other is a good thing to do right now.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? Laughter is a good tonic. Is it really?
It is. It's gonna bring us forward. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of final question for me, really. If you could paint the world, the whole kind of world with a play brush, kind of like, what would it look like? What would it look like?
Man, give Lego to everyone, No, but I think that just the mental thing of being playful in your life, finding, not letting loose of, being the kid. A lot of research shows that if you're playful through your whole life, you can add up to 10 years of your lifespan, basically. So, I mean, just by being playful in whatever you do and don't take yourself so damn serious, I think that is something that our world and our world leaders need. Relax a little bit, have some fun, and I think that's what I wanted. I would love to paint all our world leaders right now with fun paint, the checkmate paint from Disney or whatever, you know, something at least, you know. Relax and have fun. That's it.
Thank you for listening to the Journal of Biophilic Design podcast.